Let me see your identification.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
You must be Igor.
You've got a real attitude problem. Danger's my middle name.
Wait, let me explain something to you.
I am an FBI agent!
I know, man, isn't it wild?
Well, my mistake.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid?
Why?
Are you shook up? Are you nervous?
Supernatural, perhaps.
Bryan, look at that. God help us.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
We'd like to get a sample of your brain tissue.
Okay.
Shall I give him some medicine?
It's alive!
You know what's going on?
Welcome to Face the Real podcast that inspires and changes lives. Working as a stuntman and stunt coordinator in the motion picture and television world for over 27 years, I had the pleasure to meet and work with some amazing people. Actors, producers, directors, wardrobe, hair and makeup, fellow stunt performers, you name it. Here you get to hear some unbelievable stories from awesome people and their journeys through their lives, their struggles, and how they got to where they are today. Some of them funny, some of them sad, but never boring, and hopefully will help you to reach your goals, whatever they might be. I am Oliver Keller, and I'm excited to have you with me to face the real
James Pribram. So today we're gonna face the real James Pribram, right? Pribram, right?
Yeah.
What an interesting name. Where does that come from?
Czech Republic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a small town outside of Prague.
Yeah,
and it's actually my father's family.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like direct, like kind of got a little royalty in the Czech Republic. there's the Pribram Castle, and my dad likes to joke that it's like a little shack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you're third generation Czech?
Hey, say hi. Say hi. We're on Instagram right now.
Oh, hey. How you doing? You going live?
Oliver, your pot? Yeah. No, just the little story.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, go check out James on Face the Real, coming soon.
Perfect.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I kind of wanted to start actually with where you're from and where your what your background is. So you're a local Californian, right? You grew up in
Yeah. Basically born and raised in Laguna Beach, California. Started surfing at age 16. Turned pro at 18, and yeah. So professional surfing was like my entire life.
But dude, you started late, right? You started at 16.
Well, I started competing at like 15.
Okay. Yeah.
I surfed in the Brook Street Surfing Classic a couple times, but that's just like the local contest.
Okay.
But, so the NSSA, National Surfing Scholastic Association, that's like the big amateur system.
Yep.
And I didn't actually start competing in that until 85, 86. Mm-hmm. So I would have been like 15, just turned 15, which is pretty late to start surfing amateurs, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, some of my friends were already competing in the NSSA. And so they were like, what are you doing? We're all competing, we're having fun, and, you want to be a pro. And, I just sort of grew up in a part of town in Laguna that was a little bit more isolated because it's outside of town. Okay. We were like more country than the guys in town, they're like kind of towny, I don't know. It was like the beach I came from was a bunch of like kind of more rebels, like black wetsuits, white surfboards. It was very localized, and it definitely was frowned upon to surf contests. Like
really?
At that point. Yeah. Like all these guys, they were all like tough guys, really. Like, if you came from a different area and you were disrespectful, chances were you got beat up on that beach. And it was a bunch of like construction guys and plumbers and like bartenders, bouncers, drug dealers. Like that was the beach I grew up on, you know, that was just the way it was in those days. So I was really like the first guy from my beach to, you know, have any sort of aspirations of not only surfing contests, but to actually have color on my wetsuits and on my surfboards and start competing and want to turn pro. But they really embraced that and supported me in that. And they all, the older guys, they really looked after me and sort of kept me away from the, you know, sort of bad temptations in life, like drugs and all that kind of stuff. So anytime there was a bad thing about to happen on the beach, like a fight, a drug deal, whatever it was, one of the older guys would give another guy like $1 to take me up the street to the liquor store, you know, get me out of there. I'd always get like an ice cream sandwich and nacho flavored Doritos. So yeah, it was like it was a big family growing up on the beach there.
And you competed not just in California, of course. It took you probably to Hawaii and other places, right?
Yeah, so I started competing, and I started doing pretty well, pretty quickly. And I think it was my freshman year, toughest lesson of my life. So, you know, we had NSSA national team, and that was basically like our equivalent of the Olympic team. Mm-hmm. And so that year, it was my last year competing in the juniors division, which was, I believe, 16 and under. So I had a really, really good year. And that was actually my first year competing, but it was also the last year I was eligible to surf in juniors. So I did really well. I did well at nationals. I was looking really good, like pretty much like really good to make the national team. And to make the national team, you have to have a 2.0 grade point average.
Okay.
So I was like brand new to this whole scene. I really didn't know. And it's totally my fault, right? Like you want to be a professional, I don't care what it is, surfer, stuntman, whatever it is. You need to know what's required of you, right? You need to be prepared. So like competing, you better know the criteria, not just the criteria in the water, but out of the water to make the national team, to be successful.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had a 1.8. So I got passed over, didn't make the national team, had a 1.8. My father's a neuroradiologist. My mom was a nurse. So they were pretty darn savvy when it came to school and grades. And here I am, like 1.8. Don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the stereotypical dumb surfer. And so I didn't make the national team. It kind of came out that I had a 1.8 grade point average. It was really, really, really embarrassing. And to make matters worse, I was going up a division into men's. Mm-hmm. Not only did I not make the national team, but I went up a division, and that whole next year, I just got annihilated. I just got smoked. And so my mom had made a agreement with me that she would help me improve my grades, but I had to do my homework. And we grew up on the beach in Laguna, like literally on the beach. So I would come home, I'd have to do my homework every day for an entire year with my mom before I got to jump in the water, before I got to go surfing. And I'd see all my friends out there. But this is almost like the most defining chapter in my life, I think, looking back, because, you know, when you become comfortable being uncomfortable, you can do anything. You're unstoppable. And I got to the point where, you know, it's like I just naturally retrained my brain, where I'd come home, I'd do my homework, and then I was in the water. But it made me more hungry. It made me more. What do you say?
Okay, so Man, I wish I had coffee.
So, yeah. So you want me to just go back to where I was?
Yeah. So you didn't, you had to do a bunch of homework before you were able to go surf. That's where we were.
Yep. So, let me just get my little coffee, get set up. Gosh, man. I swear that's just the way the world is these days in 2020. Like, everything's just going to be more complicated and take longer, you know?
Yeah. All this technology is supposed to save us time, but it's pain in the ass.
Yeah. So looking back, when I didn't make the national team and I had to do my homework before going surfing, like, you know, that, like, I feel like in life we all have crossroads in our life, right? And you know, you either, pun intended or not, you either make the right choice or the wrong one, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, at that point it was like, man, I hated school. I've always hated being inside. And some guys had dropped out of school to become pro surfers, but I was like, that's not an option for me. My father's a doctor. Like, I can't drop out of high school. Like, I got to suck it up. I got to do this, and I got to figure it out. I got to figure out how to play the game. And that entire year, you know, like, not only did it show me what it means to have discipline and desire and dedication, but it also, like, completely improved my relationship with my mom and my father. And I think they saw me grow as a person. And surfing meant more to me going through that journey, because, you know, I was so used to just coming home from school, going straight in the water. You know, I didn't really have to work for it, so to speak. So I became like a different person. It was like, I did my homework and I'm like ready to go, man. Get out of my way. I'm coming, you know? And then I was just hungry, and I was embarrassed, and I was pissed, and I was like, I'm going to show you, you know? And so that whole year, which was my first year in Mans, man, I got smoked. Like, I just got smoked.
And you were 19 at that point?
Oh, no, man. I was like 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was a sophomore in high school. And then my junior year, man, I was on fire. I made like every final. I won the high school state championships. Our high school team won the national championship. I was named the MVP in like 1988. Yeah, that was my year. And I was 17. I made the national team, and like everything was right in the world, you know? But I look back on it, that year, I believe, like, changed me as a person. You know, I learned how to deal with things and you know, man up, really just man up, accept it. I made a mistake. It was all on me, you know. I'm like embarrassed to admit I had a 1.8 when I was a freshman in high school, but man, we all have our life lessons, and what we learn from it. And trust me, man, I learned, and I tell everyone that story because that was the first real crossroads in my life of, you know, having to make the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Now you have siblings, right? You have a brother, I know, and a sister.
I do. Not many people know I have a sister.
Is that right?
So, yeah, she's 10 years older. My brother's 8 years older. I'm pretty sure I'm not even really supposed to be here, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, I came a little late, you know, to the party. I've always been a little late, I guess. You know? I mean, I came 8 years after my brother, 10 years after my sister. I feel like it's always taken me a little bit longer to figure things out. That's, you know, like I've always seen people, it seems like everything comes easier for other people, and it takes me a little bit more hard work and effort and time. And then I get there, you know, I get there. It's just always been my path, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, my brother was a good surfer, and I looked up to him, and it's part of the reason why I wanted to be a surfer. And my sister actually used to surf too.
Okay. Did she ever compete as well?
No, and my brother didn't really compete too much either at all. He just surfed in the little local contest, the Brook Street. So, but I certainly had different aspirations.
Right. Now, how did you end up in the stunt business?
Oh, that's a good one. So, surfing kind of abruptly ended for me in 2012, and
Why?
I went from, well, I was just it was sort of you know, we were in a recession at the time. I think I was I would have been turning 42 at the end of that year. My contracts were all up. It was just kind of the perfect storm, and my main sponsor let me go. And then sort of once your main sponsor lets you go, then everyone else kind of, you know, it was just time. I was turning 42, and that's getting up there in surfing, unless you're Kelly Slater, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was let go, and like I literally went from making like 6 figures to 0 overnight.
Wow.
And there, yeah, it was a tough reality. And so I sort of got caught with no plan B. And I remember I was watching TV, and it was some commercial, and they had like 3 jet skis. And, you know, I was certified lifeguard. I had like I think it's called Title 22, which is like, they actually don't offer it anymore. It was like a hybrid of first responders, like a EMT for first responders. Mm-hmm. So I had like numerous different certifications, and I see this commercial, and I see these guys on jet skis, and I'm like, oh shit, I could do that, man. I could go do water safety, you know, for TV and film. And that was kind of like my plan. I had no idea how I was going to make that happen. But, you know, after being a professional surfer for like 21 years and globetrotting around the world, like I wasn't just going to somehow find a 9-to-5 job. Like I had to figure it out. And so I just happened to meet Charlie Croughwell, and it was because he was starting a foundation, Earth's Oceans, right. And I had my foundation, that Eco Warrior Foundation, and a mutual friend, Mark Goober, had asked me to meet with Charlie at the ranch in Laguna, and so I meet with them. Had no idea Charlie was a stunt director. And so another friend of ours, my friend Scott, who works as a set dresser in Hollywood, he was the one sort of telling me, oh man, you got to get in stunts. And then I happened to meet Charlie, and he's like, what? Well, excuse me, I don't want to cuss. He's like Charlie. He's like, Charlie's like one of the biggest stunt coordinators in Hollywood. You better call that guy and tell him what you want to do. So I called him, and I called him, and I called him, and I called him for like a year and a half. And like literally every Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'd call Charlie, and I'd be like, hey, James Pribram, just want to remind you I'm available, and here's my certifications. And like, I work really hard, and I'm low maintenance, and all you got to do is give me a time and a day, and I'll be there. And it literally took like a year and a half, and I've called him. I think he finally just got sick of me calling and realizing like hey, man, this guy ain't going away. And so, if I'm not mistaken, I think I got a text from Charlie finally. And I'm telling you, most of the time he didn't take my phone calls, like, I just kept calling him, and eventually I got a text message, and, I just remember it more or less said, be at San Onofre, like tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. And I didn't ask any questions, and I just packed up my car with all my gear, and I just made sure like I was ready to go, whatever it was. And so I always told Charlie too, like, look, I'm low maintenance. You don't got to babysit me. I'll be there 3 hours early. I'll be the first guy there, last one to leave. Whatever you need, just please give me a chance.
Yeah.
And so, the next morning, I think it was the next morning, pretty sure it was, after I get this text, I show up to Sano, and it's a state park. So the gate's closed, right?
Okay.
I pull. Oh, actually, sorry, my call time, I think, was at like 8 o'clock, right? And I was there at 5 a.m. and there's one car in front of me, a truck. And so we were like filming at the end of the parking lot area to the south called Dog Patch. And so this truck goes in before me, and I follow the truck, and we go all the way to the end. Truck pulls in, I pull in on the left side of the truck. I get out of my car. It's 5 a.m. It's dark. There's no one around. So I get out, and this guy gets out of the truck. We walk forward. So now we're in front of our trucks, and this little short guy looks at me. Got to make sure to call Charlie short, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, he looks at me, he goes, kind of like shakes his head, Pribram. I'm like, yeah, how you doing, Charlie? He goes, what are you doing here? I'm like, hey, man, I told you I'll be here 3 hours early every time. And he just looked at me and kind of nodded his head, And I remember thinking, yeah, I think I can do this,
Yeah.
Like it just felt like an omen that he was the first one there and I was there, and it was, I forget, I think I was doing water safety that day, but from there I felt like I clicked with Charlie. I kind of understood his personality and dry sense of humor, and he loves to give people shit, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of my father. My father's got real thick skin, and there's not like touchy-feely, like,
yeah.
that whole, it's like, it's like man's country type shit, And I like that stuff, and I thrive in that area or that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd much rather have someone tell me, I'm an asshole, I did this wrong and that wrong, and I can figure it out and do better next time. So
Hey, good at that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for me, I'm the new guy on the block, and I feel like I'm very niche. I'm comfortable doing, doubling surfing or water safety or anything with the water or ocean, but like, I don't consider myself a real stuntman like you guys. You guys are like jumping through windows and off rooftops and, crashing cars. Like, yeah, I'll stay away from that stuff.
Well, I've seen you do other things too, so you don't put yourself in the niche so too much. I mean, you're a pretty handy guy. But I do hear you. I mean, water is definitely your specialty, and it's good to know your limitations too. But it's also good to be confident in what you do, right? And I mean, the element water is no joke, man. And there's so much to know about it. And I consider myself an all-around stunt guy, and I got to do things in and around the water element, and it's intimidating sometimes, man. I mean, it can go bad quickly. in so many different ways, you know. So no, I mean, you're definitely a specialist in what you do.
Yeah, the water is very, very unforgiving, and it's obviously it's unlike anything else because there's no solid surface, you know. So, you know, if you're drowning, or like, you know, if you fall down, you can put your hands down on the concrete and help yourself up. You know, you can't really do that with the water. So it's I mean, I love working on Animal Kingdom. Is just so much fun, you know. We're like at San Onofre. It's just been amazing, and to kind of find something after surfing where I feel equally as confident and comfortable is pretty amazing. You know, we were I think it was like 2 years ago, we were filming a scene at San Onofre, and that day, oh man, there's great white sharks like swimming under us the whole time, you know, and so we had like a little flotilla like around us, and we had spotters, and we're filming, and there's great whites like everywhere. And so it's one of the spotters would always say, you know, incoming meant there's a shark coming in, you know, into our little area.
Okay, hold on. Pause it 1 second. You had what around you?
Like we had a flotilla of like, you know, like boats and like guys on boards and spotters kind of like watching out for us, right? And letting us know when sharks were coming into our area. So we, you know, being put on notice, like, be careful, don't start splashing water, don't scream, like, you know, just be calm, right? And so we're like shooting a scene in the ocean, and the show's name is Animal Kingdom, and now we got great whites, you know? And it was like, yeah, this is pretty awesome. like this is the real deal, you know? And all the guys remained calm, and we all worked, and everyone was professional, and it was an awesome experience. And by the end of the day, it was almost like the whole fear factor of great white sharks or sharks in general had really diminished for me. Like I was literally, they would be under me swimming, and it just looked like another fish just moving through the lineup, you know? Like, I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like, you know, they were looking to eat us or anything like that.
That's crazy to me. I mean, you know, not having grown up on the ocean and being in the water as much as you have, that is still to this day, you know, definitely a big fear when I do go into the ocean. You know, I can't help but to think about sharks, right? And then to hear you say that, to see that you see great whites underneath you and not have to worry about it, not feeling that fear kicking in. How do you do that?
Oh, you know, it's funny because people ask me all the time, like, aren't you scared? Weren't you scared? I'm always scared, man. I am always scared. I feel like that fear keeps you sharp and clear and focused, you know? Like, I've never been someone not scared. I mean, there's always, like, even when I used to compete, God, I used to get so nervous. And, you know, even like if I show up to work, I'm nervous, I'm kind of scared. There's always that element, but but you have to like learn how to compartmentalize that. You got to learn how to utilize it for the betterment of who you are, your career, what you're doing, what your goal is, your focus, you know, and you just, I've always felt like you find a way through it. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's not hard, but as long as you don't give up, you'll find a way through it. And so fears, it's always there. I mean, you know, it's just part of, well, at least for me, it's part of who I am. And I acknowledge it, I accept it, but I don't let it scare me to the point where I won't do something, to be quite honest, you know? Like, it's funny, in 2013, And this was kind of like my first foray into like doing stunts. My friend, he was working on a men's fitness adventure series. And he's like, oh man, I think you could book this right away. And like, it had all these things like rappelling and like, what else was there? Like, oh, mountain biking and all these different things. And I was like, I'm like, bro, I'm not like a mountain bike guy. I've never rappelled in my life. He's like, oh, don't even worry. Just say that you can do it. It's fine, you know? And like, so I actually book it, right? And I'm hosting men's fitness adventure series, right? I'm hosting. And I've like never done anything like this, right? I show up first day of work on set, and we're like in LA, like, I don't know, there's like some famous rock climbing area, you know, or rappelling. I don't even know what you call it. So I'm walking in and I'm looking up at this cliff. I'm like, fuck. Excuse my language. But it's like 100 feet and it's like a sheer cliff. And they're like, yeah, you have to rappel down that. And I'm like thinking to myself, oh my God, I just got fired my first day on the job. But you know, I ended up doing it. I rappelled that cliff and I was freaking scared. I was so scared, and I don't know, like I just somehow did it. So I feel like you got to just believe in yourself. You got to believe in the people around you and just go for it.
Well, right. And I agree with you. And I can totally identify with that fear, right? Because I have that too when we, you know, whatever it is we do, high fall or whatever. But when there's an animal involved, right? Like a great white that can really ruin your day quickly. I mean, that's a whole different element, right? I mean, it's not like rappelling where you're responsible, you have gear, you can check all that, and that is pretty much what can go wrong. But when you have no control over the behavior that's not even scientifically well studied enough that you can, you know, kind of always know what's going to happen when a certain reaction is made by this fish, right? That is crazy to me. I mean, I had to work on an alligator farm once on a movie doubling Jim Caviezel.
Those things are scary.
So again, like you're dealing with crazy animals, right? And so the great white sharks are no joke. So that I don't understand. How do you deal with that fear? How are you okay around an animal like that you have no idea what's going to do?
You know how? Because all the guys around me were studs, and I didn't want to be the guy who wasn't. You know, I don't ever want to be that guy, man. I'd rather get beat up than walk away. That's just the way I am. You know, I don't want to be that guy. It's like, I think it comes from competing. Like, they always talk about like practice players, right? I was never a practice player. I'm like, man, put me in. I feel like I can always elevate, you know? I've always felt that way. Like day in and day out, like I might not be as good, but when it's all on the line, I think I'm better, you know?
Right, sure. That's the confidence that kicks in. Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah. And so, you know, man, alligators, whew, those things are scary, man. I don't know. Sometimes I just try to forget about stuff. And and that day, the sharks, it was like, I mean, for one thing, it was a beautiful sunny day. It was a stunning, beautiful sunny day. It was glassy. The waves were fun. We're like filming, doing a TV show. Like, it was exciting. It was in the moment. I was around a bunch of people I believed in, who I felt like, I just felt like nothing bad was going to happen that day, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right.
I don't know.
That's an explanation.
I wish I had something deeper to tell you, but I don't.
No, that's
kind of shallow, man.
No, not at all. Actually, so for the viewers to explain real quick how you and I met, it was what was it, a couple years, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, on the movie Call of the Wild.
Yeah.
And so many times at our work there's downtime, right? We don't constantly always work, so we have downtime, and you get to meet some really cool people. And so I felt very fortunate to have met you there, because sometimes you just click with certain people, and I feel that you and I had a great chemistry. I was fascinated by your stories. You're a really good storyteller, and I kind of want to go back to this one story that I don't remember exactly, but it was in South America, and you got kidnapped, right?
Oh, yeah.
What happened there?
What's that?
What happened? Why did you even go down to South America?
Oh, so I was at the time surfing for Gotcha Sportswear, right?
Uh-huh.
And Perry Farrell, lead singer of Jane's Addiction?
I do not, no.
So Jane's Addiction, they were a really big band in the 90s. And I think this was, what year? 99. And so I was going to Brazil. Sorry, I'm trying to prop this up. Hey, there you go. So I was going to Brazil with Perry Farrell, lead singer of Jane's Addiction, and Matt Archibald. Matt Archibald, he's a really famous surfer. Great guy, good friend of mine, but we had a mutual sponsor in Gotcha. And so we go to Brazil, and I don't even know what we were doing. It was more or less like a promo thing with Surfing Magazine, but we're basically going to go hang out in Brazil for a couple of weeks with Perry Farrell, and Perry was going to DJ some parties, and we're going to shoot some ads and some lifestyle photos and surf and just be rock stars, really. You
were how old at the time?
27.
Okay.
And so we had this big entourage of people. Like Perry, he's got makeup artists and assistants, and he's the full rock star with outfits and hat, all that shit. I'm not into that stuff, man. I'm I put on a tank top for you. That's about it,
Well, I appreciate that, because Timmy Gilbert a couple weeks ago didn't.
He went bare chested.
He went bare chested. His surfboard was behind him. It was cloud.
Oh, that's good stuff. I like that. Sorry. So we go to Brazil, and Brazil. Oh man, Brazil is crazy. You been to Brazil?
I have. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country. It's crazy. It's fast paced. It's loud music. It's everything I enjoy. And so
very nice people and great food.
Yeah. So we're invited to this place, and I don't want to name names, but we're invited by the owner of this place. Pretty incredible. And we do the whole shirt exchange. You take your shirt off your back, you give it to them, and you exchange shirts. And so long story short, one of the photographers in our group, and this is a couple hours later after dinner, he's kind of drunk. He's kind of an idiot to begin with, and he's really loud and just not my cup of tea. So the story goes, he thought it was a smart idea to pinch a girl's butt. It just so happened that this girl not only was pregnant, but the fiance of the owner's wife, right? And we're in this place, and there's only one way in, one way out. Somehow he escapes. Everyone in my group gets out, but I'm there. like I said, man, I'm always like the last one. Like,
hold on. So she got pinched and then
so, sorry,
out. Yeah.
So he pinches her butt. Full scene ensures, right? There's like threats made, they run, they get out, and now the owner of this place is looking for him, like literally to kill him, right?
Wow.
And so I'm still in the establishment, and like I said, there's one way in, one way out. And so you have this card, and every time you get a drink or you get food, they stamp your card, and on the way out they take your card and then they total everything up and they charge you. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm trying to leave and they see me, they grab my card, they grab me, they pull me to the side, and next thing I know, like 3 guys basically like grab me, take me into a side room, tie me up on like a stool. I don't know if you could see, but like it's like a high chair like this, you know?
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I've been kidnapped and I'm tied up on this chair. And they want to know where I'm staying. And I literally did not know where we're staying. Had no idea, right? And so this big guy comes in and he starts messing with me. And he's like, you know, basically, effing where is he? Blah, blah, blah. You better tell us. Da, 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 da. And I'm tied up like this, right? And this chair I'm on right now is a couple feet up. It was like the same thing. So this guy, he kept pushing me and I kept going backwards and I'm like hitting my head and then he starts messing with me like he's going to push me and then not push me. And then he pushes me and fuck, this went on for like 3 hours, right?
You're kidding.
And so meanwhile, there's like a crowd of people outside, like, because they know I've been taken. And, you know, my good friend Aaron Cohen, who was a part of Jane's Addiction, he loves telling this story because it just gets good. So I'm going to try to go through it quickly because
No, don't go through it quickly. Don't leave the details out. We have plenty of time. If you have.
All right. So I'm tied up in this room. This guy's like fucking with me big time, you know, get slapped a couple times. And all of a sudden there's this very distinct knock at the door, like dung, 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 dung. And they have this like huge wooden door, like with this like arm that goes up and down to lock it and unlock it. And this door like slides open. And all of a sudden there's like screaming in like Portuguese, right? And dude, this guy comes in and he's got like a broken arm, but it's literally like in cardboard and with like a shirt. And he comes in and there's a guy behind him who's his bodyguard, and the guy with the broken arm comes in and he looks at me and goes, "Hey, are you okay? Are you all right?" In like, you know, broken English, you know? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm okay. And he's like, "Listen, don't worry about it. I'm here to get you. You know, some people told me that you've been taken and I'm here to get you. So don't worry about it." And then they go into this other room and they're screaming and this and that. And his like bodyguard guys like standing watch by me. And then there's like the other 3 guys who basically took me and the owner, and this whole thing goes on, right? And so they come back in the room, they untie me, and he says, "Listen, you're going to hold the back of my bodyguard's shirt. I'm going to walk out first. You hold on to his shirt. We're going to walk. We're going to turn right. You're going to see basically a brand new white limousine." I'm like, "Oh, sweet, white limo, right? Okay." He goes, "Look, don't stop. Don't look up. Look down. Don't talk to anyone. You go straight to our car. We're going to get in that and we're out. We're leaving, right?" And so I said, "Oh, okay." And we walk outside, and I walk outside, and all of a sudden all these people were there because they're worried for my safety. They start cheering, right? It's like the craziest scene ever. we turn right, and I'm holding the back of his bodyguard's shirt, right? And the main guy, he's in front of him. So we walk out, everyone's screaming, we turn right, and I'm like thinking to myself, hey, don't look up, don't look up. But I'm like, is there really a fucking limo out here? Like, I look up down the sidewalk just a little bit, and I see a guy right outside the limo. The limo door's open, and he's freaking holding like an AR-15. And I'm like, oh, great. I know who just came and got me. Fucking the biggest drug dealer in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, wow. And I'm thinking, like, where are we going now? But the weird thing was, I was not scared. I was just like, just going with it, you know? I was like, I don't know why. I just remember I wasn't scared. And I remember just thinking, like, this is going to be insane, you know? Like,
you didn't ask any questions at all, like inside the room. Where are we going? Where's my friend?
Inside that room, I wanted to fucking kill the guy who kept pushing me over. I was losing my fucking mind on that guy. Yeah. And these guys, they didn't really speak English, the guys that were in there. He kept pushing me over, and I kept like, it was like someone kept punching me in the fucking ribs, in the stomach, man. Every time I fell, like my back, my ribs, it was just like boom, boom. And
so you fell down, and they kept putting you back up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just kept pushing me. Like, and I'd fall over on my back, tied up. I don't know if you've ever been tied up.
Yeah.
But like, I was fucking losing it. Like, I was telling him, I'm going to fucking kill you, dude. I'm going to fucking kill you. And he's just laughing at me, and they're laughing at me. And like, it was the most surreal thing. So we get outside, guy's holding the AR-15, puts me in the car at the back of in the limousine. There's another guy with another fucking AR. And he's like, I'll never forget this. I get in there, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm like looking around, and then, you know, the other guy comes in. So there's a guy here, a guy there, drug dealer guy here. And I'm like, here. And the guy that was already in the car, he looks at me. He goes, hey, yeah, I like a drink, you know, but in like broken English. And I was like, yes, please. And he's like, what would you like? And I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, I don't fucking care, bro. Give me that bottle. Like, you know, like, are you guys gonna kill me? Like, is this my last drink? Like, what the fuck, you know? And so, oh man, I'm in this car, and like, we're just sitting in there, and it's just like, no one's even saying anything. And I'm like, and the guy like hands me a drink, and I'm just like, holy fuck, like, what time is it? Like, and I'm just like, hey, where are we going? He's like, oh no, it's okay, man. And he kept saying, oh no, man, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We're gonna go up to my house. We're gonna go party. And I'm like, we're gonna go party? He's like, yeah, we're gonna go party. I'm like, all right, I guess we're gonna go party.
It's in the middle of the night now, right?
Oh, it's like, fuck, it must have been like close to 5 a.m., you know? Like, yeah, I mean, like the sun's coming out, dude. And so we drive up this big mountain, like this fucking hill, right? And like, we're driving, we're like out in the open. Next thing I see, there's like this big, huge white mansion on stilts, like on, you know what I mean? Like, in the middle of nowhere. And it's like literally overlooking the beach town that we were in. And so we pull in through a gate, and there's like armed guards like everywhere, man. And I'm just looking around, and I'm like, I'm basically with Tony Montana of this area, is what I gather. So we go in, we go into this house, dude. There's like, I don't know, man, like 20 girls like running around, partying, fucking, like, it's insane, dude. So we go in, and we turn right, and then like, he's got this kitchen, and it's like I don't know what's it called, like an enclave or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got this big like round table, and it's like really cool. And then there's like a refrigerator, and then it goes out into the dining room. And so like he's like, hey, yeah, why don't you fix us some drinks? And I'm like, okay. And like I open the fridge, and like, dude, there's literally the only thing in there is cranberry juice and bottles of water and bottles of vodka, right? And like there's like no food. And I'm like, oh, hey, you want a cranberry vodka? And he's like, oh man, how do you know? And I was like, a lucky guess, man. And I'm like thinking, fuck, dude, what do you mean? Like, all you have in here is fucking cranberry juice, vodka, and bottled waters. Like, and he's like, he thought I like magically like read his mind or something, And I'm like, man, this guy's cooked. And so I pour drinks. I have a drink. He has a drink. It's like, dude, the sun's up, and I'm like, oh man, this is fucking crazy. And then like he goes, so have a seat at the table next to the fridge, right? I'll never forget it because it was like shaped this way. And so I sit there, and then he like whistles, and all these girls come, and like all of a sudden, like we're joined at the table with like, I don't know, 8 girls, 10 girls, and then like he whistles again, and this girl comes in with this huge plate, and like there's literally an amount of cocaine on this plate. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh shit, like, wow. And so there's like 4 or 5 girls on my left side, and so they all do some blow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the plate comes to me, and so like I've always had this thing with that particular drug. I lost one of my best friends to that when I was like 18 years old, right? I hate that shit. So plate comes to me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay, no thank you. And I pass it to drug dealer guy on my right, and he looks at me, he looks around, and he goes, what? And he starts yelling, and he says, you don't want my fucking cocaine? You don't want my fucking cocaine? He just goes, bam, and he like slams, and it's like a glass table, right? He just fucking slams it. You don't want my fucking cocaine? You don't want my fucking cocaine? I'm like, oh shit, now I'm dead, right? And like,
crap.
He like stands up, and he goes, you believe this motherfucker? I saved his life, and he doesn't want my fucking cocaine. He goes, all of you women, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Go, go, go. And these women, they like stand up, and they run out. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm dead. And he goes, no, fuck you. I'm just kidding. Come back. I love this man. I saved his life. He doesn't even want my cocaine. And he's like, come back, women. We party now. We party. And I'm like, oh, my God, dude. I'm like, fuck, am I still alive? Did I have a heart attack? Like,
holy shit. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So, sorry, coffee pot's going off. Yeah. So we like, dude, there's like girls, they're doing blow, the fucking drug dealer guys just like running around. Like all of a sudden he's like got these guys like barbecuing and cooking food, and like, I don't even know. I think I went to sleep. I remember at some point I was saying, hey man, like, I don't even know if I was going on like 30 something hours or like close to 2 days without sleep, and like literally I remember they were cooking like these like steaks. I forget what they called them, but they were so good. And like the funny thing was, this guy was like super healthy, like as far as eating, but like literally we drank vodka cran like for hours, man, hours with these girls. And I was like, and the food was like unbelievable, like salads and this like these steaks, you know. And and I remember thinking like, fuck, like I wonder if I'm actually still kidnapped, but like I don't know I'm actually kidnapped. You know what I mean? Like because somebody grabbed me and then this guy took me, right? So like, am I still hypothetically kidnapped right now? And I'm like, because like I had asked if I could leave and he said, no, we need to, I forget what he said. We need to talk to somebody or make sure you're safe. And I'm like, shit. So at some point I asked him if it was okay if I, you know, went to sleep. So like, and so he's like, oh yeah, I got a room. You got a room downstairs. I'm like, oh fuck, man, I got a room. Like, am I moving in? Like I'm just like, wow. So they take me downstairs and it's just like this super nice, like open room, but it's like huge, right? And there's like, oh, this house had these fish tanks all over the place, right? He loved fish. There's like these awesome fish tanks everywhere. So I go down into like my room and there's like this huge like fish tank and it's like super nice. And he's like, anything you want, you hungry, you know, my people make you whatever you want, you know, if you're thirsty, like, you know, full wait staff, you know, like I don't feel kidnapped, right? But I'm like kidnapped, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, but like outside the grounds, it's all fenced in and there's armed guards out there with AR-15s, right? And I'm like, fuck. And so I literally like fell asleep. I'm guessing it was like, I don't know, 4:30 in the afternoon, 5, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I slept all night. I like literally slept that whole night. And the next day I woke up and I went upstairs and like, there's still girls there and there's still some people partying, but it's calmed down, you know? And he's sitting there and he's like, man, he's just like, he's got like Coke on his nose and he's like got a cocktail and he's drinking coffee and I'm like, oh, good morning, you know? And I'm like, fuck. And I just said, I go, hey, you think it'd be okay if I go back now? And he goes, oh yeah, everything's good now. Everything's good. We're gonna take you. You know, you want some coffee? You want some breakfast? And I'm like, no, like I think I need to get back to my friends. I've been gone for like 2 days now, and I think they're worried. And he's like, oh no, everything's fine. They know you're safe. Everything's. And I'm like thinking like, oh, that's weird. How do they know? And he's like, oh yeah, no, it's okay. So, well, I won't. Okay, I'll tell you the punch of the whole thing. But so we're there. He goes, no, it's not a problem. We're going to take you. If you don't, you know, if you want to go now, it's fine. I said, yes, please, you know. And I said, but the problem is I actually don't know where I'm staying. And he's like, oh, no, it's okay. We know where you are. We know where you stay. And I'm like thinking, God, this is weird, right? So we go outside. We get in the limo. The same guy's in there. He goes, hey, would you like a drink? And I was like, I'm like, no, man. I just want to fucking go, okay? And so, oh my God. So we're in the limo, we go back down, pulls right up to the hotel I'm staying in. And it's not like a big fancy hotel. It's like small. It's like single level, like whatever. Yeah. And we're like in a sleepy little town. I get out of the limo, he goes, hey man, he goes, tonight I'll pick you up at 6. I'll pick you up at 6 and we'll go have a nice dinner. I'm going to take you to dinner, and then we're going to go to the concert. And so Perry was playing a concert that night, right? Yeah. And he goes, yeah, man, 6 o'clock, I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take you to dinner. Don't worry, man. You're under my protection. No one fuck with you. Nobody going to fuck with you. You're under my protection. Anything you want. You want women. You want blow. You want, you know, anything you want. You tell them who I am. And I'm like, who are you? Like, I I don't even know the guy's name. I don't even think I ever knew it, whatever. I just remember him saying, anything you want, right? And so I start to walk away. He goes, no, man, come here, open your hand. And he goes like this. He like dumps like, I don't know, like 6, 7, 8 bags of like little bags of cocaine. And I'm like, no, bro, like, yeah, it's not my deal. Oh no, it's okay. Everyone likes cocaine. Everyone, you need this. This is, how we do things. And I'm like, oh man. And then I'm like, fuck, like, what do I do? And I'm like, and at this point, I'm like, I don't even care. I just want to get into my hotel and like, just like literally like get out of here. Right.
Yeah.
So I take the bags and I'm thinking, fuck, is he like going to call the cops? Or the cops going to show up? Cause I got this like cocaine or like, so all these weird things are going through my head now.
Right.
So then I walk in and all my guys there, and Aaron, my good friend Aaron Cohen, who was kind of like Perry's right-hand man at the time, he's like, dude, you're alive. Fucking, it turns out the whole time this guy had me, he was negotiating my release to get VIP tickets for that night to Perry's concert. And the whole thing was like a setup, like a total, like just some crazy weird, like literally we got to get Aaron on this. So you get because Aaron was the one negotiating my release.
Right.
And so like, I had no idea this was even going on, but they were back and forth and like basically negotiated my release for like 4 VIP tickets.
Holy shit. That's crazy. Yeah. We definitely have to have him on. It'd be fun to have a little conversation with you guys together. That's insane.
Oh yeah. Aaron loves telling the story, and Aaron's version of it is even better because he was on the other side.
Right.
And he was like, oh no, bro, those guys, like, they took you and like, you were like kidnapped, but then you were actually even more kidnapped because the drug dealer guy got you. And then like, they called us and we were negotiating back and forth, and they told us not to get the police involved, and like this whole crazy story, man. So
just think about how many, I'm sure you have, how many things could have gotten wrong that night or those 2 nights. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. It's it's weird because I remember like never really feeling scared. I remember feeling like really angry towards the guy who kept pushing me, pushing me down off the chair. Like I literally wanted to kill that guy. And I remember vividly like leaving the club holding that guy's shirt. And I remember like the people yelling, and I remember like walking out, but like I kind of in that moment, I remember feeling like kind of like, wow, this is like, I remember like as weird as it sounds, I didn't feel like anyone was going to fuck with me with that guy,
Yeah.
And like, people, like I could see like people just moving, like looking down, and like shoes are like moving out of the way. Like, and then like getting to his house, like it was kind of weird, but it kind of like reminded me of like an old, like a house party in Laguna growing up, like, I don't know. It was just insane. It was just insane,
It sounds like it. That's crazy. What a surreal story.
Yeah. But you got to get Aaron, because Aaron's version's even better.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it for sure. We'll make it a little special.
Yeah, for sure. So.
Now, was that the same time in Brazil as that other story that continues then with the sail ship and your girlfriend?
Oh no, that was a totally different one.
Okay.
Yeah. That was so that year, that was 1999 Brazil, and then 2010 I sailed from Rio to Cape Town with a crew to be the first of a crew to study the South Atlantic Gyre. The gyre is where all the trash collects.
Okay.
And like media incorrectly calls it a trash floating island, but it actually isn't. Hypothetically, if it was, a trash island, you know, and it was floating on top of the surface and it was all connected, you could find a way to clean it up. This is far worse because there's trillions of smaller pieces under the water surface everywhere. There are like big pieces floating on top of the sea, but it's far worse. It's like millions of like needles under like a haystack, you know?
Yeah.
So we sailed from Rio to Cape Town to study the South Atlantic Gyre. It had never been seen before by the human eye until our crew. Okay. And so getting on the sailboat, I got on the sailboat. I had a girlfriend, right? Started it with a girlfriend. And then like literally like 4 days into it, maybe 5, like I could tell that her and the captain had this sort of rapport going back and forth. We'll call it rapport. So like this one night we were both on watch and I said to her, I'm like, you know, it kind of feels like you and the captain are like getting pretty close. And she like instantly just like snapped on me like, oh, you're so fucking jealous and blah, blah, blah. And I knew like at that moment, like, well, she definitely likes this guy, right? And I said, no, I'm definitely not the jealous type. And I'm just telling you, like, if you really, really like this guy, then like, I understand, but like, stop putting it in my face because I'm stuck on this boat with you and him for like another month. Like, I think we were at sea for, it was either 31 or 37 nights, right?
And how many people are on this ship?
It's like what was it? I think it was a 71-foot sailboat, a racing sailboat. So it was like really narrow, and we had like a crew of like God, what was it, like 13 people. We're like literally sleeping on one another. I mean, it sucked. It was dirty. It was like the food site. It was brutal, man. Like it was pretty rough. Like it was like the crew definitely wasn't my cup of tea. These people, right? Like it was like the opposite of hanging with all your stunt guys on set, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that camaraderie, that sort of understanding, like the people on this boat, more or less, I take that back. There's a couple and it was sort of their trip. They were awesome. And, but as far as the rest of the crew, I didn't really jive with them. And so it was, the only time I really found peace was when I was on watch up on deck, you know? Mm-hmm. And I remember once we passed the date line, it got really, really stormy, like just gnarly seas. And one night I went up and I was on watch and I just walked out on deck. I just clipped in, I turned around and I just got blasted by like, I don't know, 15-foot wave, 20-foot wave. Oh. I almost got washed overboard. I just clicked in, you know, and so basically I got washed across the board and I was scrambling, trying to hold on to something, you know, just instinctually. And I grabbed something and it like, the wave turned me and I ended up like separating my shoulder. Oh. And what's that?
I said, oh my God.
Yeah. And luckily, like I just clipped in. Otherwise I would have been washed overboard and I would have been dead. So that happens. Right. And then I noticed that my girlfriend and the captain are getting closer and closer. This one morning I wake up and I think it's like 4 a.m. and we're supposed to go on watch at 4:30 that morning. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I get out of bed and I walk into, you know, where the captain's seat is. I don't even know what to call it, you know, the main part of the boat, you know? Mm-hmm. And so she's sitting on the captain's lap with her arm around him, you know? At like 4 a.m, I walk in and I'm like, you know, that like, I'm not going to do well with that shit, you know?
No.
And so we have this like disagreement, right? And I'm like, I'm pretty much fuming. And this guy's like the co-captain, right, of the boat. Okay. And it's like, and before we got on the boat, him and I, like, I helped him get all the supplies. I helped him do a bunch of stuff, getting the boat ready when we're in Rio. I felt like, you know, we hit it off. You know, I felt like we were really respectful towards one another. Like, I felt like he was my friend, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden now we're on a boat and the guy's like, obviously 110% after my chick. Right. And now, like, he's basically into him. And so at the time, my father was really ill. I was going to miss Thanksgiving. I was going to miss my father's, would have been his 84th birthday. Okay. Like, that's a big deal to me. And I didn't want to go, and my girlfriend talked me into going. And anyways, it's like this huge thing. And now I'm like in the middle of the water, and I'm like, fuck, like, I'm missing Thanksgiving. My father's not well. I'm going to miss his birthday. And now I got to deal with this shit, right? Yeah. And I really felt like it was sort of me against the world at that point, you know? And I was fucking pissed, man. I was like, I would never fucking do that to somebody, right? Like, there's, you know, I live by a code. Like, I don't mess with people's women, girlfriends, wives, none of that shit, right? Like, that, like, to me, that's like the lowest thing a man can do to another man, right? And so I'm like, I'm pissed, man. I'm just like, I'm fucking like the raging bull inside. So her and I, we're not really talking. It's just bad. Fucking food sucks. There's hair in the food. You got to shit where you shower. You get, like, dude, it's like prison, right? And it's not like a sailing, like, we're in stormy seas. It's like raining. It's cold. It's like, we're not like sailing like, oh, this is beautiful Tahiti, right? This is like real shit. Like, we're like 21 nautical miles in the middle of the water, in the middle of the ocean. Like, if anything happens, like, dude, you're dead. Like, if there's a fire on the boat, you're like, it's not like Coast Guard's right there, or, you know, they're just going to be right there to rescue you. So all these things kind of start wearing on you. Mm-hmm. And so there's one computer on this sailboat, and it's an old Dell computer. And so I'll never forget this. It's just so vivid. It's Thanksgiving morning. It's 7 a.m. I'm going on watch at 7:30. And I go to the computer and I open it. And it's like this shitty old Dell computer. And there's an email there. And so I'm trying to figure out how to, like, minimize it to save the email, because it obviously was not sent, right? Okay. So I'm like trying to figure out how to minimize it. And then, like, I see my name, and I'm like, so I kind of start reading it. And it's my girlfriend has written an email, right? And basically in this email, she's saying, I lost a ton of weight, man. I lost like 17 pounds on that boat. No. Like, I was so skinny. And so in this email, she refers to me as Skeletor. And it's like, I'm so over Skeletor. I'm so in love with the captain. He's so charming, and, you know, he's so gentleman-like and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, fucking bitch. Like, and so I figure out how to minimize that email. And then that email is gone. And then there's another email that comes up, right? And so this email is to her ex-boyfriend, who she left to be with me. And she's like, and the day before, we had seen these dolphins, right? And I was next to her, and she's like replaying the dolphins. in the email telling her ex-boyfriend, like, oh my God, I saw these dolphins and it made me think of you and blah, blah, blah. And, oh my God, I made such a mistake and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fucking bitch. What? Like, I was with you with those dolphins. And now, like, oh, dude. So there's an email, right? And then there's another email to someone else. And again, it was like, you know, I will never forget this. It said, yeah, I'm just playing nice until we get to Cape Town, and then I'm gonna dump his skeleton ass, is what it said. Like, I'm just playing nice until I dump his skeleton ass, right? And I'm like,
unreal.
Oh, I'm just like, dude, I'm like fuming, right? And and I'm like, I literally, like, it was like my fucking heart sunk. I was like, what the fuck? Like, and it's Thanksgiving morning, dude. Thanksgiving morning, and
oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm missing my family. And I literally thought it was a joke. And I closed the Dell computer, I put it down, and I walked. And I thought everyone said, surprise, just kidding. Happy Thanksgiving. Like, thanks for being with us. We know, like, you're going through a difficult time with your family, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I literally thought that was going to happen. Right. Didn't fucking happen. I walk up on deck, and there she is. She's talking to one of the main people who put this trip together, right? And I walk out, and she looks at me, and she's like, oh, hey, babe, good morning. I go, you just playing nice? Or do you actually mean that? And she, like, looks away. I saw it, like, register. And she looks back, and, like, at this moment, she realizes, like, I read the fucking email, right?
Yeah.
And she thought, what? You fucking reading my emails? And I'm like, fuck you, right?
Right.
So then I walk to the front of the boat. We get in this, like, argument, right? And I'm just like, fuck you, you know, all your shit, you fucking, like, your emails. Like, I read 3 fucking emails, right? Like, saying how in love she was with the captain. He's so charming, and look, you know, whatever. But I asked you in the beginning, and I said, if you're really in love with this guy, cool, but don't put it in my face. Don't, like, I'm stuck here. Like, respect me as a fucking man. And by the way, that motherfucker, he's fucking dead, right? And he was quite a bit bigger than me. And he was this goofy guy, and, you know, he, so my father boxed, right? And so I learned how to box when I was pretty young, you know. Anyways, the co-captain, he would always, like, yeah, I hit my heavy bag, and he would throw these, like, super wide hooks, right? And I remember thinking, like, dude, I would fucking sidestep inside of that, come up under you. I'd fucking wrap my arms around your fucking neck, and I would choke you to fucking death, right? and I just knew it was a matter of time before him and I fought, right? So after that day, I think I had like 3.5 weeks left on this boat.
Unbelievable.
3.5 weeks, man.
With
and literally
torn out, you know.
What's that?
With your heart torn out and can't leave that ship, but you're on that ship with that crazy evil person.
Oh man, I was just, and you know what's shitty? I found out afterwards, and like, so everyone got seasick on that, right? And I was trying to help people. I was going on watch for people because they were scared to go up there because the waves were big, it was stormy, and I really didn't mind it. I actually wanted to be up on deck, and I was taking people's watch, and so it turned out that pretty much everyone behind my back knew this was going on, right? I found out later. So that was just like, wow, really? Like, trying to help people, and then they know this is going on, and they're laughing behind your back. I mean, I'd never been treated like that in my entire life, dude. I've never been treated like that. I've never, like, I mean, to this day, it just is like, are you fucking serious? Like, you people live life this way? You treat people like this way? Like, so every day, like, I have a journal, and I right of one. It was like I was in jail, dude. It was like I was in jail. And I was like, one day I'm going to get out of jail. I'm going to fuck this guy up. I'm telling you, dude. And so we get to Cape Town. We come into Cape Town. It's foggy. It's 4:30 in the morning. It's freezing cold. It's like a gnarly like entrance. There's like a drawbridge or something. We make it in. We get there. There's like some celebration on the, you know, us arriving. There's some champagne. And so we get there, right? And then most everyone goes back to sleep. But the co-captain and I and this other guy who's like a photographer, we stay up and my ex-girlfriend was there for a little while until the co-captain and I, we start fucking squabbling, man. We're just kind of going back and forth. And he's like, he broke out like some like gnarly, I don't know, I want to say it was like 140 proof, like alcohol. I don't know what it's called, but it was gnarly, right? And so I think I was like sipping whiskey and then the other guy wasn't really drinking too much, but I was like sipping my whiskey. I was kind of like just drinking a little bit, but I was kind of making it so the captain thought I was drinking more than I was drinking. Because in my mind, I'm like thinking, all right, me and this guy, we're going to fucking scrap and I'm going to fuck you up, you know? And I'm just like talking shit. And so we had the, you know, that like that game where you put your hands on top of someone else's hands, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. So like me and the co-captain, dude, we're just like, we're just going to that place. And so he's drinking the shit. He's getting pretty hammered. And somehow something about this game, I don't know how it went, but I was like, I guarantee you, you can't touch my hands and I'll move them. I'll slap you in the face 3 times before you even fucking touch me. Right. And I was like, and I had like, I don't know, like $70 cash. I said, but you touch me, I'll give you all the money I have in my pocket. Right. And so we do it. And I fucking lift my hands and I just fucking just boom, boom. I just slapped that fucking guy like 3 times like this, you know? And I'm like, I was just fucking pissed, man. I'm telling you, like,
sure,
I'm a pretty nice guy. And like, I felt like fucking Jack LaMotta, man. I was just seeing black. And so that kind of kicked things off. And then like, we end up leaving the boat and I have a drink. Co-captain has a drink and this photographer has a drink. And he's like trying to separate us because we're just like, fuck you and this and that. And we're going back and forth. Right. And so we leave. Those 2 guys went into like some hotel place and I went to like, there's like the seawall and the water was coming up and there's like rocks. And I remember sitting there basically like watching the sun come up and there's trash everywhere. And I remember like, there's just like plastic bottles and just shit trash everywhere. And I was like, I still had to fucking, even though we just got there, we still had to do like press for like 5 days, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I just want to go fucking home, but I really want to fucking kill this guy. Like literally wanted to kill this guy. And so finished my drink. I walked back to the boat. And so to get to the sailboat in the harbor, there's like this staircase, right? And there's like these huge like light posts. So I walk down, he greets me. I don't know what is said, but all of a sudden we're talking shit. And it's just, hey, fuck you, fuck yeah. I go, hey bro, you and me, let's fucking, just you and I, we'll take a little walk. We'll see what's what, right? I go, you think you're all big and bad and fucking this and that. You're bigger than me. And I just start like, I just like teeing off on the guy. I'm like, come on, let's go. Just me and you. Let's take a fucking walk. And he goes, okay, let's go. And so we start walking up the stairs and you know, like some guys, they're like that full bully mentality, right? Especially when they're bigger than someone. And he's like always talking. And like in my experience, like guys who talk don't really scrap, you know? And I'm not a big fighter at all, but like you put me in that point, dude, I'll go, right? And I remember thinking, this guy's all talk. And I actually even let him walk behind me because I was sure he was going to fucking just be a bully and puss out, or, you know? And so we get up to the top and it's like flat. And I turn and all of a sudden he fucking charges me, right? And I knew like the first punch he was going to throw was like a super wide hook, and I was going to slip inside of it and come up under him and put him in a choke and come up under his chin, you know? Motherfucker comes at me. He's not even throwing a fucking hook. He's trying to fucking thumb my eye, and he catches me. And to this day, I have like a tiny little scar here, you know? And he thumbs me, and I'm like, motherfucker, trying to fucking thumb me. Like, what the fuck? You steal my fucking chick, and now you're trying to thumb me in the eye? I'm like, oh man. So, oh shit. Before that, I gotta back up. We get up there, right? And I turn, and like he's over here, and I'm trying to turn him because there's like there's a light post, right? And so I get him in front of the light post, and he like, that's when he comes at me and tries to thumb me, and I move, but he still grazes my eye, and I move, and I come back, and I just get him like my forearm under his chin. I get him like this and like a rear naked choke, you know? And so I have him like this, and like we're like stuck, and I'm trying to get him down, and he's trying to fucking bulldoze me and get on top of me. And like we're standing there, and all of a sudden he like has me, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm almost going back on my heels, and I'm like, oh fuck, if I go on my heels, I'm going down. If this guy gets on top of me, I mean, he's quite a bit bigger than me. He was like I'm probably at least 20 pounds like thicker, you know? Anyways, we're like this, and I'm like, oh fuck. And everything I had, I just fucking ran him backwards, fucking right into the lamppost. He hit his fucking head, and he falls down. And I was like, dude, I held on to that motherfucker till he went to sleep. And then I was like, oh shit. And then he like comes through. I'll never forget it. He starts crying, and he starts apologizing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he goes into this whole thing about how like a year and a half before that, I think he was married, and he lost his woman on the sailboat to another man. And I'm like, so what? Like, so you thought you would repay that? Like you would do that to me because you felt so horrible that your heart was broken, and you want to fucking do that to another man? Like, and he was just crying, and I was just like, fuck you, man. And that was pretty much like it, you know? But I just remember, like, to this day, dude, like, it's the fucking worst memory ever. Like, I've never had people treat me so fucking poorly in my entire life, you know?
Well, and I'm sure you still have to share quarters with her, right?
Oh man, it was like, well, we got off the boat, and you know, we had to go to customs that day. So we're walking to customs, and you know, the funny thing was, she was taunting me too, like saying how he would kick my ass, he's gonna kick your ass, all this stupid shit, right? And I was like, fuck you, you little, you know. And so we go to customs, and like co-captain her, they're like together, bro. They're like totally together, walking like to customs. And I'm like just sitting there going, oh my God, like I can't even believe this shit's going on, you know? And so we go to customs, and oh man, it was just like, yeah, I wouldn't wish that shit on anybody, you know?
Right. I mean, during this entire time while you were on the ship, you still shared a room with her, right? Or a bunk?
Oh, not a room, a bunk. We like put like plywood between the two of us, man. Like, I mean, it was like, you know, it freaking sucked. But I mean, just reading the words of the email, like the validation, like I remember, you know, specific words, like her calling me Skeletor and how he was so charming and all this stuff. And it's like, man, you don't even, like, I don't even want to talk about this shit because, you know, it's like you just come across as like jealous, but it was like, oh man, this, and you know, the shitty thing was a couple of people warned me, you know, referring to her as a tool. So,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I should have known better.
Well, you learn, yeah, you should have, but you learn as we go through life, right? I know exactly what you felt like. I had a very similar situation to that, and it's devastating. It tears your heart out, you know, because you feel lied to, right? In such a, and disrespected and so
But
on.
deceived, you know, like
Deceived, right?
you know, it's hey, I mean, I would never treat somebody like that, you know.
Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't the last time or the first time for her, you know. So usually,
No, apparently not. Apparently not. But you know, I'm like, yeah, I know who I am, and you know, I think obviously we learn from situations like that, but at the end of the day, I feel like we're always going to go through these really, really difficult times in our lives, right? But you can't let them break you. You know, you can't quit, you can't stop. You got to keep loving. You got to keep moving forward. You got to, you know, you got to be a man. Take your lumps, get your ass kicked, get back up, and keep going. You know, and that's life, right?
yeah, and learn out of it. So how do you deal with your ups and downs? I mean, especially after something like that. What do you do to pull yourself back up?
I just keep moving forward. I mean, you know what I did? So we were on the waterfront in Cape Town. I freaking checked into a super nice hotel. I ate the best food for like the 5 days I was there. I was drinking the nicest red wine. I was just like, man, I'm gonna have the best time I can, because we still had to do press because it was part of like a documentary film that they were doing and some other stuff. So I had some obligations there, and I just made the best of it. And, you know, like the weird thing was, I was still kind of stuck with her, right? I still had to do press. I was still like, you know, the irony is that we had like paid for this trip together.
Okay.
So like, I was still going to have to like pay her money back from hotel and all that kind of stuff, because it was on her credit card, right? And like, I still had to be a professional. Like, I still had to be a professional. Like, I couldn't like show up to these press engagements or like these, we had to go to some events together, and I couldn't be all like, you know, fuck you. Like, I had to be a professional, man.
Right.
So I still had to deal with her. I still had to be cordial, and I still had to be that way with the co-captain, even though we got in our little deal, you know. But it was like, you know, sometimes, man, you just gotta freaking put your head down and do it, you know. Yeah. And you got to be a professional, and you got to be a man, and it's not always easy at all, you know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Tell us about your foundation. How did that get started?
The Eco Warrior Foundation. So we've been a 501c3 for since April of 2014. I believe we've removed almost 22,000 pounds of litter off our oceans and beaches and waterways. We just launched a new curriculum for from K through 12. So super excited about that. It's really interactive. It's got some really fun learning lessons for children and for high schoolers. And yeah, so it was just my way of giving back to something that's given me so much in my life, you know, the ocean. Like I've always believed that the ocean has the ability to not only heal people, but change people. You know, I always felt like it was that powerful, at least in my life. And so it's just my way of giving back.
That's amazing. It's huge.
Yeah. It's just just my way of giving back. You can go to eco-warrior.org and see what we're doing. But just doing my part. We all got to do our part.
I love it. Yeah. What can people do to help?
Well, that's a good question. We're in 2020, so we're not doing because the pandemic. We're not able to do any cleanups.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping to get back doing cleanups in 2021. Right now, we're just really focused on our curriculum and educating the next generation of how to properly care for not only our environment, but our beaches, our oceans, our waterways. It's not only about not littering, but it's about picking up what you see on the ground that's already there. Just because it's not yours doesn't mean it's okay to walk past it. Just do your part, pick it up, throw it away, give back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good words. What would your advice be to someone that is kind of stuck in a 9-to-5 that they're unhappy with, and they feel almost trapped, because they have a certain income, they may even have health insurance, but I just feel kind of secure, within that, although they're not happy. They're looking forward to Fridays, they're hating Mondays. They may have a little wish that they would like to pursue and make their career, but that insecurity, or security in that case, holds them back and trapped. What would your advice be to someone like that?
I think sometimes you just gotta take a leap in faith, man. You just gotta go for it. You and I, we've talked about it. Like, there's no difference between you and I doing something and someone else not doing it. All right. Because somebody's always doing something out there. So why can't it be you? It's all here. It's all perspective. It's all about dedication, desire, and discipline in my eyes. Mm-hmm. And if you're unhappy, look, I always say nothing changes if nothing changes, right? Meaning, if you don't make changes, nothing's going to happen. So if you're unhappy, make that change, whatever it is that you think is going to make you happy. You don't like your job, quit your job. Just go for it. Make a change and get out there and go for it. I believe that, like I said, I don't believe anything's easy, right? I know that for me, like, it's always taken me extra effort and extra time to make it. And I feel like people will always make it some way, somehow. It might not be exactly the way you envision that, but as long as you don't quit, you don't give up, you will find your way through it. You will find your way through it. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. That's not to say it won't hurt. It won't be difficult. You might cry. You might, whatever. You can go through whatever journey you have to go through to get there, but you will get there and you will make it.
Yeah. Dude, great last words. I really do appreciate it. I had a lot of fun talking to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, look, you know what it's like. How long you been a stuntman?
28 years.
28 years. I mean, how did you first get into it? What was your first step?
Well, I grew up in a country that had no film industry at the time, right? And I was 7 years old when I saw the TV show The Fall Guy on TV, dubbed in German, and then like, oh my
Matrix,
God.
Right?
Yeah.
I love The Fall Guy.
That was just it for me. It was in my heart. That's what I wanted to do, and I couldn't let go of it. And man, I was always a little kid, and I was always so driven by, I always wished I was born in America, right? Because I thought all this American stuff was cool, right? The cars are cooler and so on. And the film industry was just mesmerizing to me. And I was so set on becoming a stuntman. So I played stuntman, and I was called names and made fun of by all my, people around me. But
that's part of it, right?
Huh?
That's part of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So anyhow, when I was 16 years old, I went to Germany to a stunt school, and that is something I will never forget. You know, I felt understood for the first time because there was people that want to do the same thing, right? And they had the same passion, and that feeling is incredible, right? When you finally don't have someone making fun of you, but actually is excited about the same thing, has the same passion. So that was a tremendous feeling, you know, and from then on, I just worked really hard on honing down my craft, learning as much as I could, and got opportunities in Germany to start working. And, you know, then the little film industry started to fizzle up in Switzerland, and I had my own shop, my special effects license. I made, you know, I had to learn how to weld and welded my own roll cages for the cars we flipped over, and pyro licenses, and learned how to make blood squibs. I was just fascinated by all this stuff, you know. And then when I was 24 years old, I wanted to do more and moved to the States, you know. Had really no plan, just a couple of duffel bags and a dream. So.
That's all you need sometimes is a dream. But I love that because it's so important to share that with people and your viewers, that because I feel like a lot of people like, you know, see you in films, right? They see like your successes, but maybe they haven't seen how hard and difficult it was for you to get there. Like, success never happens overnight, right? Like you mentioned, people teased you, made fun of you. Same with me. Like, you come from a small town, and people tease you and they ridicule you and they make fun of you. And but like, for me, like I always say, the people that were always saying how good I was, how great I was, like I never quite heard those voices. The voices I heard, and the voices that are still in my back pocket, and I had in my back pocket, those are the voices the people tell me I'll never make it. But those are the voices that got me up at 4 a.m. Those are the voices that made me work harder than the next person. Those are the voices I still hear every day. Yeah. You know, those negative ones, because those are the people I'm going to say, fuck, right, I'll show you. I'll show you, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it's great you say that. Brian Wade, an actor, a friend of mine that we had on here, he was saying that fear, and we go back to fear, is a powerful motivator, right? As much as it can hold you back, it also can be very helpful.
Yep.
Right? So I love that. Yeah, you're right. You got to keep challenging yourself, and also every day ask yourself, you know, am I using all my potential, right? Do I give it all I got? Because people are way more powerful than they think, you know, like you can accomplish so much more. And I think it's a part of our society too, that, you know, keeps a lot of people just pressed down low and just kind of keeps them here instead of letting them wander out and actually live their life to the fullest. You know, it's extremely important.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you just got to go for it, you know? I mean, there's no, like, you went for it. You had a dream, you know? I had a dream to be a pro surfer, and it's, man, just once you learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, it's like, you can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't see how many waves you did not catch, right? Or how many times the basketball didn't go into the hoop, right? For the pros, and they just see how good someone is. But it takes a lot of failure to get there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, like when I had a 1.8 grade point average and it sort of became public, I was so humiliated. I was so embarrassed. But like I made a significant change in my life. Mm-hmm. And you know, again, when I was sailing from Rio to Cape Town, like, man, I was so humiliated. Like, I was, you know, I'd never been treated that way in my entire life, you know? And so like we all go through we all go through the fire. We're all challenged. There's no difference. We're all humans. We're all people. We all bleed. We all feel pain. We all shed tears. We cry.
Yeah.
You know, we love, we fight. You know, it's like there's like, just because you see someone and their success doesn't mean it didn't take them through the same journey as you. And
Right.
I think people keep that in mind, especially today in social media, where people, they like just to show their successes. You know, like me, I'm open as a book, man. I'll tell you anything. You know? That's just the way I am. Like, you know,
I love that.
Yeah, I got nothing to hide.
Dude, again, thank you so much for your time. It was really, really cool. I hope you get your computer taken care of. Hope it's nothing serious.
Oh, well, hey.
Well, thanks
it,
for
it could always be worse, right?
Yeah. You got a phone right now. It works.
I'm here, buddy. I'm here.
Hey.
I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk to your buddy. Let's line that up.
Aaron, yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta get Aaron on there, yeah.
That'd be cool. We have a little I can set it up that we all can see each other at the same time, so that'd be fun.
I'm gonna send him a text right now.
Okay, cool.
I'll set it up.
All right, man. Well, I hope to see you soon. God willing, I'll be there in about a month.
Yeah, we'll catch up for sure.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Absolutely. We'll talk in a few
buddy.
days.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Be good, man.
Take care. Bye.
Too. Bye.